and she said, "What are we going to do?" And then we're talking about nuclear weapons. Are we going to go back to antecedent, historical antecedents of how our founding fathers thought about the nukes? Yet here, now I know there were all these concurrences that broke out, right? Multiple concurrences, and this one joined this. The concurrences are we agree with the result, but for different, potentially for different reasons. Here's the reasons, and then some justices join with that, and some justices join with that. But the key and core is this guy ends up not being his conviction overturned. It's also hard for lower court judges to figure out what just happened when you read all these concurrences and what is the new policy about drug use control. Not everybody joined the bandwagon.
Right.
I felt like I was watching like a 1970s stand-up. Our founding fathers were really drunk. How drunk were they? From Match Game. Remember Match Game?
Yes.
They were saying drunk. Gene, whatever was name. They were so drunk that blank. Yes, they shut off hands.
Yeah, I think that's to having watched reruns. I think that happens. I think
it's hilarious. By the way,
yeah.
Little known fact: many of them were high or drunk on the night. Really?
You know, one of the things about those concurrences is, again, another ridiculous concurrence by Clarence Thomas. And this time, unsatisfied with the fact that the court is still somehow trying to wiggle its way around his absurd, history tradition test. In this case, Thomas claims the federal government can't regulate firearms at all unless you're actually doing it on crossing the border. And so he's trying to rewrite Second Amendment law even more to the deference to the NRA and the far right gun owners association's agenda to try to get the federal government away from having the ability to prosecute any cases that basically aren't directly transporting or trafficking guns. It's ridiculous.
We shouldn't be so surprised because at the oral argument, Gorsuch is starting to do this drunk history thing.
Yeah.
My drunk history. So we're like, oh, well, so we see where this is going. So let's move from there. If you're deep in vast knowledge, including in the Justice Department, to just a weird lineup as we wait on 20 more decisions. They didn't drop any on Friday. There was a tease that they would, although you think it was this Thursday and next Thursday. They're going to drop 20 decisions next week.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
What do?
Yeah. I mean, they could put over to that week right before July 4th.
Let's get there. All right. So the next two are probably 10 and 10. But there was this weird case that came out called TM versus the University of Maryland about a doctrine that I'm instantly for our audience, but we'll mention it, the Rooker-Feldman doctrine, which is about what a federal court can do to look over the shoulder of a state court judgment and some procedural issues related to that. But I wasn't as concerned about the ruling on that because it seemed to be consistent with the main doctrine. What I thought was interesting, I want to get your opinion on this, what is with this lineup of who is the 5-4? The opinions written by Sotomayor. Okay. Who else? Alito and Thomas join her, along with Kavanaugh and Ketanji Brown Jackson. And I'm like, and in dissent is Amy Coney Barrett, Kagan, Gorsuch, and Roberts. Have we ever seen that particular combination of judges join together in dissent or in majority?
I haven't, although I'm sure it's like on the roll of the dice, it's possible, but given how far the court has veered in these past few years, in particular of Robert's court, after sort of they unleashed themselves to just drive this hard right agenda, we've seen much more of a 6-3 divide, and the 6 Republican appointees and the 3 Democratic appointees in the Senate. And so it really is unusual to see Kagan there with 3 Republican appointees, and then to see Jackson.
And that reminds me, the one thing I left off in our discussion about the guns. What is, because I started it in our tease to open the show. And what's with the Democratic appointed justices not even doing a dissent and just go? Are they giving up on guns? They're just like, well, we're going to lose, so let's make it 9-0. Like, I don't understand. Or they really felt this guy, it was really specific to this guy surrounded by a lot of pot and a gun. This guy shouldn't go to jail. I mean, was it that?
It could be as the saying, bad facts make bad law, where they disagreed that this was it's an excessive use of prosecutorial power. And I would say this makes it right. But in this instance, I do think it was really an overcharged case because 15 years in jail for the guy having pot and a gun, not actually, doing anything with the gun, not having used the gun in a crime, just at his house. It seems like a substantial.
I mean, if it was a track house, meaning,
Yeah.
whatever, I'm not sure he would have gotten that route up.
That's right. And I think that's why part of what's happened is there's been a re-examination, societally and also within DOJ about the Controlled Substances Act and which ones are worse, in essence, or more addictive, more dangerous than others. And the growing sort of national consensus is it's not quite a consensus, but the growing national view is that marijuana is more akin to alcohol. As we go back to drug history, than to some of the other substances, controlled substances that are more highly addictive and more highly linked to crime and violence. Whereas, it's a little bit like, and I'm going to try to live here. It's a little bit like the drug testing for athletes. Like if someone tested positive for pot as an athlete, it's hard to believe that would be a performance enhancer. It would slow them down. And so, like, I think it is probably, different and considered different by a lot of people than these other drugs that are on the controlled substances.
Right,
So,
right,
substances.
right. The first baseman seems to be eating a lot of Big Macs right now. Not sure that's not good.
Yeah.
Not sure that's not good.
You say you're not yeah.
So let me we'll do a little palate cleanser here with the discussion before we get to the other big chunk of cameras in the courtroom. Our audience, of course, is in favor of it. I'm in favor of it. I mean, I did live through, as you did, the O.J. Simpson era, where cameras in the courtroom were a corrupting force. You had a lot of preening and peacocking, is what I'd like to say, among the lawyers for O.J. Simpson. But other things that have been now indelibly marked on our memories, like if it don't fit, you must quit until you conquer it. The allegedly arthritic O.J. Simpson trying to put a glove over a glove, and just knowing that if he got the glove on, he's toast. Right? So he's fine. He doesn't fit. So we've seen the bad part of that, and there's entire networks built around court TV, which I'm not sure if it's around anymore. But what do you think about the United States Supreme Court? We get the audio, of course. We do our best. There's even, I don't know if you've seen it, there's AI out there that's generating like cartoons that look like John. I feel like I'm in the Hall of Presidents at Disney World. Like John Roberts is, you get to kind of get the feel of what that looks like. But and Kavanaugh and others have said out loud, I'm sure Roberts too, that they don't want it. They think it'll corrupt the advocates. What's your?
Well, I do remember Lance Vito's growing collection of clocks.
It's amazing. Lance Vito's collection.
I don't think that's likely to repeat here. I actually think it would be a really good idea to have cameras at the Supreme Court because people need to know who these justices are, and they already are preening in some ways. They already do play to each other and to the audience. We've seen that from Scalia in the past. We see that from Alito. We've seen that from all of the Trump appointees have been in some ways trying to act like they've got this sense of humor or somehow make light of these very serious issues.
These mic drop moments.
Yeah. So it's not as though they're not already playing to the audio. But I think having it on video, I think it's good for the Senate to continue to move forward on this. I think there should be cameras in the courtroom of the highest court in the land. I think that people should see these justices and their expressions as they're, interacting with the lawyers. And I don't think that the lawyers in that setting of oral argument, and I, previously for a couple of years was an advocate before the circuit courts. I've argued, cases in the United States, but I don't think in the appellate setting that you're likely to have the type of preening in a way that you may see in a trial. That's just more of like the way trials sometimes involve these personalities of trust with the jury. The oral advocacy, work at the appellate level is just by its nature more judge directed versus